I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome to another episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. And today I have guest Jean-Francois Tremblay, owner of CanLabs Research. Well, welcome, Jean-Francois. Thank you so much for joining us again. We had so many questions and comments after our last peptide talk with regards to using peptides for our animals. So tell us a little bit about you, give us a little background for those that didn't see our first episode, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what peptides are.
Okay, well, the short version, they can always go back to the first. I have a master degree in pharmacology. And since I've became aware of the existence of peptides, that's back at the end of the 90s, I got interested in them. So there weren't that many back then, so it was easy to be an expert, when there were only 2-3 peptides around. Now it's a bit more complicated, but my interest and news and research in them way back. I have a company now, we make them here in Montreal, and they're great compounds.
Excellent. And so let's do just a tiny bit of an overview for those who didn't see the first episode. And just talking about what peptides are and the difference between peptides and what people call bioregulators, so they know the difference.
Okay, well, chemically, there is no difference. Bioregulators are peptides, meaning short chains of amino acid that can go from 2 to 50 officially. Linked amino acids in chains. The difference that really differentiate the bioregulators to the other one is that all bioregulators are very small to begin with, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, not even 5, 2 to 4 amino acids.
Yeah. So
they're very small, but that's not where the difference lies. The difference lies in how they interact or how they signal. Peptides in general, they will signal attaching themselves to receptors on the surface of the cell or the surface of the nucleus or the surface of something inside the cells, like the mitochondria or other elements in there. Bioregulators have the particularity that they penetrate all the way inside the nucleus of the cell, and they're, I don't know, not receptor, but they introduce themselves within and attach to the DNA chain. So literally they go in there, they attach there, which provoke dilation locally of the chain in that area, which promote an increase in expression of the genes that in this area where they attached. So basically what you got there, it's epigenetic at its core. There is no intermediary. It goes right there and increase, or in some cases decrease, if it's a gene that would have a negative impact, the expression of the genes. So that's very amazing. Absolutely. Because we have been in the last years, like 20 some years, we discovered the DNA, thought, hey, we got it, we can control now. And then they say, oh, it doesn't work like that. Then epigenetic came, and that's the thing, you can have a gene for cancer or for schizophrenia, they know. But if that gene is not expressed, then you won't get the disease, for example.
Exactly.
So that's what epigenetic is. It's the study of the expression or not of those genes. And though there are many factors, actually: diet, exercise, sleep, a lot of things are epigenetic factors, but they work in direct. Vitamin D is that's why sometimes they say it's more than a vitamin, it's an hormone. uh, Vitamin D act on hundreds of genes to increase their expression, and that's a direct, but it doesn't bind to the DNA. It's through a chain of events.
Yeah.
Those one, they go straight in there, no interference. They get there, and right there they have their epigenetic effect. So it's pretty amazing when you think about it. But
It
it
is.
does.
It is. And I mean, and you've already stated, we're 2 decades plus into all of this. Why now there's such a huge, I guess a lot more people are becoming aware. I don't even want to say it's new anymore because it really isn't, but I feel like it's new for many people. They're finally discovering.
Well, they were known for a very long time in what I would call a subculture. I mean, small group of people, anti-aging people, athletes, bodybuilders, and all that. But very kept within those subculture, not going mainstream.
Right.
The big shift have been that they became mainstream now. In the US for a few years, Canada, it's we're always a couple of years behind on new things like that, but it's picking up too within the limitations of Health Canada and the FDA and all that.
Of course.
But it's actually becoming mainstream in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we're talking, I mean, this whole second podcast stemmed from all of the questions we got, because in our first episode, you mentioned using 6 anti-aging bioregulators with your 2 cats. And I have a fur baby, I have a little chihuahua, and I was intrigued. And then I got a whole slew of questions about those. How do we do it? What do we give them? So we're going to talk all about animals today. And we're going to touch on dogs, cats, and how we can help our 4-legged friends live the healthiest, longest life possible by using some bioregulators. Yeah. So let's touch on first, because the first question that I got over and over again was, what are the 6 bioregulators that you named in the first one, and why do you use each one? What does each one of them do?
Okay, each bioregulators, there are like over 20 that have been identified. Each organ or system makes them. It's like an internal system to the effect you'll see from that epigenetic modulation is a bit, it's like it's an adaptogenic effect. A bit, we see that with plants, where if something is too high, it's going to bring it down. And if something is too low, it's going to bring it up to keep things where they should be. So that's why you don't have to worry about, but maybe I have hyperactive something. Should I take them? Yes, because it's going to bring it down. If I have something that's lagging or underactive, the same compound will bring them up. That's why they call them regulators. They are not up regulators, or they're just plain regulators. They bring whichever system they affect to where it should be, optimal levels. So you don't have to worry about hyper stimulating, for example, or
Mhm.
taking too much, or that doesn't happen. Uh, and they are in the tissues. Let's say if there is a regulator for the heart,
Mhm.
and you find it in the heart tissue, but for some reason, uh, aging, the heart itself won't produce it,
Yeah.
and so that's why if you supplement, but you're sure that it gets it, and from the diet, actually, if somebody had a diet as we had in the last 200,000 years, we would get those. And that's instinctively people realize that. They say you
Mhm.
want courage, eat heart, you have a sluggish liver, eat liver.
Yeah.
I have a doctor I work with here, and it's funny because in the conversation we're discussing about the synthetic version of thyroid hormone,
Mhm.
the one you get in pharmacy, and the extract gland, which has T4, T3, T2,
Mhm.
which you never get in chemically, and that's a funny. First, the we were talking about that on papers, blood results will show the same levels
Mhm.
of stabilization of hormones, but you say, but what the all those studies they don't look at is that most people, when they take the extract
Mhm.
versus they they feel the difference, they feel better. So their blood tests are the same,
Yeah.
but they feel much better. And then he mentioned, at the time, it's one of the first time we met, and he knew I was into peptides, but he had no clue what it was.
Mhm.
And he mentioned, but he said a funny thing too. He said people who take the extract over time, it's slow. It may take 1, 2 years,
Mhm.
but slowly their thyroid function improves. And he said, I
Interesting.
don't understand why.
Mhm.
And well, I told him why. I said, it's easy because in the extract, you will find the peptides that regulate the thyroid. So without knowing, they're taking that one peptide that over time improve their thyroid functions.
Of course. Yeah. Makes total sense.
So and even even in food, you eat meat, because you have meat. It's made from protein. You break it down to peptides and to amino acid or small peptides, and there is breakdown of sequences that correspond to those bioregulators.
Mhm.
So we get some, but of course you don't control know which one you have.
Right.
It may not be broken down well. So
Mhm.
basically, you cannot really count on that. But they're there naturally, and your own organs produce them for whichever reason, and most of the time it's well, not disease, but lowering in body functions and
Yeah.
aging. Basically, you
Yeah.
produce less.
Um, but so you, out of those 20 sort of plus, right, bioregulators have chosen six at this time
Yeah,
to give a
I
compound.
didn't.
Yeah.
It's actually the truth. I believe they're all anti-aging.
Mm,
Six of them they
um,
marked as anti-aging
right.
because there are actually studies done
Mm,
showing that anti-aging effect.
got it.
The other ones, they didn't do that kind of study. Okay, let's see what happened if taken for a long period of time. Are they going to live longer,
Yeah.
or is the mortality will decrease during that period? So they didn't look at it. So that's why we cannot affirm, backed by research, that
Right.
they are, and I believe they all are.
Yeah.
Actually, the whole 20 some of them. What I tell people to do, there are like three or four that are really basic. The number one is epitalon.
Yeah.
And why is it so basic? Because it's secreted. We make it in the pineal gland,
Hmm.
which kind of the master controller of the whole hormone systems. You
Hmm.
know, it's really at the root of everything. Uh, so that's a number one. And in studies, it has been shown that you reduce, you know, in a time frame, if you take it by itself, you reduce mortality, I think, almost 50% in
Wow.
humans.
Yeah.
Like that, those were human studies.
Hmm.
So plus a bunch of other things.
Hmm.
But then they found that if you combine it with the second bioregulator, which is the one for the immune system,
Hmm.
then you bring those number up big time. Mortality is
Wow.
then 67% decrease
Wow.
in a 6 or 12 years time frame. So only those two, the immune system and the pineal one, you know,
Hmm.
hormonals. Uh,
Yeah.
Immune system, it makes a lot of sense too, of course,
Of
because
course.
if your immune system is very functional,
Hmm.
then you know you won't get infection, much less infections. If
Yeah.
you do, you're going to be in a position to fight them and this and that. And overall, and we see it a lot lately in the you know, that pandemic we
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
where basically people who have a strong immune system, many probably caught the virus without even knowing,
Right.
because their immune system was healthy and they found they, you know, they just kill it in the egg and the virus didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Versus the most how do you say, you know, the older people and all that, the
Hmm.
most
Elderly. Yeah.
at risk
Hmm.
are people with weakened immune system.
Right.
So you see that, you know, strong immune system. When I say strong, just how it should be,
High functioning. Yeah.
then it preserves you from a lot of things. Those are the two basic ones
Hmm.
that I say that are the basic of that. And then just look at your own weakness or familiar history. Let's say in your family there is a heart conditions. You know, your father died of a heart attack, and all his brother and grandfather, and you know,
Right.
or liver or kidneys. You know, you look at your history
Hmm.
where, or maybe a condition, maybe you're pre-diabetic,
Yeah.
so you know, you take the one for the pancreas.
Hmm. Hmm.
But they found that there is one in particular, it's the one for the circulatory system, you know,
Hmm.
blood vessels and everything, that has more than actions on that. And they're not sure yet, but they theorize that this one, somehow the way it collocates within the DNA,
Hmm.
it kind of makes it easier to the other ones to locate themselves.
Oh, and is that Vasugen? Or am
Yeah,
I thinking?
that's
Yeah. Okay.
Vitrogen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that by two things, you know, through interviews, through
Yeah. Hmm.
writing, they kind of and looking at protocols that are given by those people. They which either they give you a protocol for the eyes or for anything,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Visugen is always included in that
Mm.
protocol. So we figure there is a reason.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. Plus, you know, if your circulatory system is healthy, it will, you know, it travels through the blood flow to begin with. So,
Yeah.
you know, it gets where it's supposed to get better.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
So actually, you know, now we're building that basic stack where you would
Hmm.
have epitalon, you would have thymogen, which
Hmm.
is the immune system. Then you
Hmm.
would have visogen.
Yes. And so when we're talking about I guess, using bioregulators for animals. I mean, how would somebody go about doing that? They would pick their stack of their, whatever, start with your epitalin, add in your Vistugen, your immune booster thymogen, and then, you can stack would you give them injections? It wouldn't be much. I feel like the dose would be so tiny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course you need to adjust the dosages.
Yeah,
They're lower than humans
of
because of
course.
body
Yeah.
weight and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, well, as I mentioned before, they're all orally bioavailable. They
Hmm.
could swallow it,
Yeah.
and which is a good thing. I don't think your cats mostly would appreciate it being jabbed every day.
I know my dog, I was worried. I'm like, I need to ask more questions because I don't think my dog's going to let me inject him every
No,
day.
even though that's the best fruit,
Right.
it's
Yep.
you get
Bypasses
the most
digestion. Yeah.
bang for your buck.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
inside, so you don't then lose anything
Yeah.
through the digestive process for many reasons, malabsorption, and
Yeah.
you know that. So, but that compensated by the fact that they don't, in let's say in milligrams, they don't need much. So
Right.
financially, it's not a big drain to lose a bit and to
Yeah.
put a bit more.
Yeah.
And basically, the best way I've seen with cat and dogs, it's either to mix it with their food
Yeah.
or in their drinking water. But
Oh.
you make a little ball and
Yeah.
make sure they drink it all,
Yeah.
and that'd be it, and it would work perfectly. And actually, there are some bioregulators that we don't know what the peptide is, so
Hmm.
we work with the glandular extracts of those.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it could be glandular extracts of all of them if you wanted.
Yeah.
And but they come in capsules, so you just break open the capsule, mix it
Yeah.
with the food, and bang, they eat it. And with pets, I believe that would be the best approach.
Yeah. And so, what about with regards to, I guess, just oral dosing? It's going to be very, very small, as we mentioned. So, is that something where you would kind of break open one of the pills, like, for example, and you just use a sprinkle of it and kind of move on from there?
It's based on the body surface. They
Okay.
found that was the best way to calculate,
Yeah.
and that's why many times dosages, even for medications, are the
Hmm.
same for men and women, because a woman that weighs 120 pounds
Hmm.
and a man that weighs 260, you would say, oh, there is a huge difference. Yeah, in body weight. But the body surface, it's only a small variation. There
Right.
is, but
Yeah.
it's not double. The man doesn't have twice the body surface as the woman.
Right.
So often medication, they look at dosage per surface, body surface,
Yeah.
and it's amazingly accurate. So that's how you do the conversions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but me, I made it very simple with those bioregulators because you cannot take more. So I go by body weight. It's easy.
Yeah.
So if you were to take 100 milligrams
Hmm.
for you, then you say, okay, my cat weighs like 15 times less.
Hmm.
Then I would just, disregarding everything else, I would just, and then maybe I would give him like 20% of the dose
Yep.
would be equivalent to a huge amount for them.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, you cannot take too much, and
Yeah.
you're going to give it orally, so you compensate with that, and that you cannot calculate. So
Right.
you overcompensate like that in the dosage.
Yeah.
You make sure then by giving, like, actually, which would be much more, that he will get the efficient dosage.
Right.
It's not very scientific there, but I think it makes sense.
Yep.
If it's a big dog, in some cases, actually, I went to like equivalent as human dosage.
Okay, yeah. Let's tell people about where do they get the pet, because CanLab's research, I mean, that all my peptides come from you. I trust, we have to think about the quality of peptides. And we talked about this in the first episode when we were talking about
Yeah.
peptides in general. And just the fact that we have to be careful. Sometimes it's not always the dose in the bottle that we think we're getting, right? There's a lot of factors involved with all that. And that's really important. And so tell people a little bit about CanLabs and obviously a little bit about that quality control and where they can find some of these bioregulators.
I believe we have the highest quality in terms, pharmaceutical grade, and actually it's actually research grade, which is better than pharmaceutical, because when you do compounds and our company, the person I work with was doing peptides for a very long time for research. So that's the quality we're used to make.
Yeah.
And it's actually higher than pharmaceutical, because when you do a research to study a peptide, if there is one thing that you don't want to become a variable, it's the actual product you study.
Right.
So, ensuring the highest quality, you ensure that you won't see that variances from the actual product. And until proven otherwise. But it seems like we're the only company that actually makes them in America. Most of companies, they get them from China. And well, just a short thing is when you look at the quality of a peptide, so it's what you don't want. That's what you pay for. You don't pay for the 99%. You pay for what you're not going to get in that 1%. And that's where the difference lies. Plus, if you're talking specifically synthetic bioregulators, right now we're the only company in North America that make them all. So if you want many of them, you won't find nobody else have them. So, quality wise, I think, I'm pitching my company, but, I didn't start a company to make products first. Well, to make products, but not to sell them. I never expected it to become so big. We're making what I wanted for myself, which is the highest quality. I'm sure of what I'm taking.
And you know what? Your story there is very similar to my own.
Too many good companies, actually.
I wanted the best for myself, and it was like, okay, this has to be easier. It has to be more manageable. I want to make sure it's the best. It doesn't have fillers and artificial this and artificial that, and then now here we are, right? So it just other people get on board and they want to take care of themselves in that fashion too. And so last quick question is, one of the things with bioregulators is we want to rotate usage, right? So would you do like a kind of a 2-month thing and then take 6, like do it twice a year, or how do you do it with your cats?
I do believe in rotations.
Yeah.
But again, you know what's one of my rule about supplements and vitamins and everything is, first question you need to ask yourself, can you be deficient in it? Meaning, let's say you take milk thistle, the plant, that's good for the liver and all that.
Yeah.
Can you be deficient in milk thistle? No. That milk thistle deficiency doesn't exist. Versus, can you be deficient in magnesium?
Of course.
Yes. So if it's something that you can be deficient, it's a very broad thing, but this is it. Then you need to take every day. There is no rotation there. You need to supply it every day, because if you don't, you become deficient. If it's something you cannot be deficient, then I rotate. Because that's something extra you bring in the body, so it becomes kind of therapeutic, and eventually the body adapts So the best way to avoid that adaptation, it's through rotation.
Absolutely.
And that's why personally, I take curcumin, I take green tea, but I don't take every day. I kind of determine my weekly dosage, and instead of breaking it down in 7 daily dosage, I will break it down maybe in two weekly dosages, which is going to be much higher, but only twice. So one day I will take only curcumin, but lots of it. Next day I will take lots of green tea extracts. So you have a weekly rotation that permits you to use it for a long time. And not losing the effect you're looking for.
Yes, exactly.
So can you be deficient in bioregulators? Yes and no. See, if for many reasons you might be deficient, but again, your own body produces it.
Right.
So now it falls into both categories. So what do you do about it? So what I do myself is I take for 20 days, then take the rest of the month off. So I will take from the 1st of the month till the 20th, then take the rest of the month off.
Got it.
Because another beauty of those is that once they introduce themselves in the DNA chain, they stay there. It's not like a hormone. It's not a touch and go thing, because on a microscopic level, when hormone, it attached to the receptor, but for a fraction of a second, then goes off. It's like really like that. No, it introduces itself and stay there. And because that 12-year study where they show those actually, I think they were taking the peptides only for the first 3 years. For 9, they didn't take anything, and yet the effect was there. Probably it would have been better if they would have kept. But see, once they're inside, it's kind of semi-permanent. Of course, there are cells that are going to die. New cells are coming. Those new cells don't have the peptide. But where this, we renew every cell of our body and every 7 years. Every 7 years, you have a totally different body. So you need some renewal, but whichever protocol you choose, that's why if you do 20 days, then the rest of the month off, and let's say 1 month you didn't, because you were traveling, don't hammer yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So to be on the safe side, that's why I do. So I have that cyclical approach. And because of personal conditions, maybe I'll do it 9-10 months out of the year. And that's plenty. And I would do the same with our little furry animals. Don't go crazy about that, because the way they work, there is a lot of room for modulation in what you do.
Exactly. Okay. Well, that was excellent. And thank you so much again for joining me and talking about this hot topic. And it's going to get bigger. I see it, I feel it, and I can't wait to get my dog on some bioregulators and monitor him and see what happens. So thank you so much, Jean-Francois, for your time. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you're listening on your favorite podcast host, make sure you give us a like and follow us on YouTube. There's a brand new episode every 2 weeks. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's show. Head over to Pitel-Killah.com to gain access to some amazing free resources that will help you gain energy, erase debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on social media at Pitel-Killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.